Mr. President, do you plan to comply with the judge's order regarding rehiring the federal workers?
What are you talking about?
A Clinton appointee judge that ruled that the federal government has to rehire the fired federal workers. Do you plan to comply
Well,
with
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely. It's a judge that's putting himself in the position of the President of the United States, who was elected by close to 80 million votes. Having more and more of that's a very dangerous thing for our country. I would suspect that we're going to have to get a decision from the Supreme Court.
Elon Musk has got to go! Elon Musk has got to go!
What do we do? Stand up like that! What do we do? Stones, get out the way!
Going around here. So if you want to maybe get a better view, if you come.
Trump administration and Elon Musk are firing all of our, hardworking federal employees. Specifically, of Judge Alsop's ruling is he found essentially that the program wasn't, he used the word, strong words, he said it was a sham, right?
Obviously, you're concerned about the situation.
That's a very dangerous decision for our country. These are people, in many cases, they don't show up for work. Nobody even knows if they exist. And a judge wants us to pay them even if they don't know they exist. With 1.4 billion people, we have 350. That's it.
Pasó de literalmente ser el país más peligroso del mundo.
Sir, there's been some criticism that the Alien Enemies Act has only been invoked 3 other times, and they were all during times of war. Do you feel that you're using it appropriately right now?
Well, this is a time of war because Biden allowed millions of people, many of them criminals, many of them at the highest level. They emptied jails out. Other nations emptied their jails into the United States. That's an invasion. That's an invasion. They invaded our country. In that sense, this is war. In many respects, it's more dangerous than war because, in war they have uniforms. You know who you're shooting at. You know who you're going after. These are people that came out, they're walking our streets.
That the Democrat Party has reached an all-time low in popularity. It turns out when you let your hatred of President Trump get in the way of doing what is best for America, the people reject you. Who would have thought? But there's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Donald Trump. And as you saw this past weekend, the president used his authority under the Alien Enemies Act to deport foreign terrorists.
This will be challenged later today in the courts. Does this allow him to defy the court order without having this the checks and balances and the separation of power?
No, in fact, this administration acted within the confines of the law, again, within the president's constitutional authority and under the authority granted to him under the Alien Enemies Act. We are quite confident in that, and we are wholly confident that we are going to win this case in court.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, there's been some criticism that the Alien Enemies Act has only been invoked 3 other times. They were all during times of war. Do you feel that you're using it appropriately right now?
Well, this is a time of war because Biden allowed millions of people, many of them criminals, many of them at the highest level. They emptied jails out. Other nations emptied their jails into the United States. That's an invasion. That's an invasion. They invaded our country. In that sense, this is war.
Mr. President, obviously you're concerned.
The administration has not only invoked the act in an unprecedented and lawless way, but they have refused to give individuals the opportunity to show that they're not actually part of the gang. The government did it in secret and in fact signed the proclamation in secret. If the government has this power and the president has this power, any group of people could all of a sudden be designated enemy aliens. They could be in a minute's notice on a plane and put in a Salvadoran prison.
And for people who have due process questions about making certain that there wasn't anyone who was swept up who did not meet the criteria that you laid out, is there a way for the administration to provide more detail about how that was determined, who the individuals were that met this deportation order?
Yes, I can assure the American people that Customs and Border Patrol and ICE and the Department of Homeland Security are sure about the identities of the individuals who were on these planes and the threat that they pose to our homeland. They take this incredibly seriously. They are putting their lives on the line to deport these designated terrorists from our country, and they should be trusted to do that. And that's exactly what the American people elected this president to do.
What criteria, though, other than tattoos or maybe being in the wrong place at the wrong time, are they using to determine that someone is actually a member of one of these organizations?
Intelligence and the men and women on the ground in the interior of our country who are finally being allowed to do their jobs. Their hands were tied under the previous administration, and as I said, they take their jobs very seriously. The administration will provide all details to the questions that the court poses. Again, as I said, all of the planes subject to the written order of this judge departed U.S. soil, U.S. territory before the judge's written order.
But what about the verbal order, which of course carries the same legal weight as a written order, and said for the planes to turn around if they were...
Well, there's actually questions about whether a verbal order carries the same weight as a legal order, as a written order, and our lawyers are determined to ask and answer those questions in court.
If you guys can't send 200 Tren de Aragua terrorists at a time to El Salvador, where are you going to send them instead?
It's a very good question. You'd have to ask the courts and the people on the left who are trying to fight this administration for doing the business that this president sought out to do, which is to deport these foreign terrorists. And we're very grateful to President Bukele and to El Salvador for accepting these heinous monsters where they will face justice.
Does this allow him to defy...
In terms of the time of the
tattoos or...
country to ensure that our streets are safer for law-abiding American citizens. And this administration is...
From France, who does not think the U.S. represents the values of the Statue of Liberty anymore, and something different. There is now a member of the European Parliament from France, who does not think the U.S. represents the values of the Statue of Liberty anymore. They want the Statue of Liberty back. So is President Trump going to send the Statue of Liberty back to France?
Absolutely not. And my advice to that unnamed low-level French politician would be to remind them that it's only because of the United States of America that the French are not speaking German right now. So they should be very grateful to our great country.
A Clinton appointee judge that ruled that the federal government has to rehire the fired federal workers. Do you plan to comply
Well,
with
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely. It's a judge that's putting himself in the position of the President of the United States, who was elected by close to 80 million votes. Having more and more of that's a very dangerous thing for our country. And I would suspect that we're going to have to get a decision from the Supreme Court. We had a busy day today. The King just left.
President, did the administration actually, speaking of orders, violate Judge Boasberg's order in sending back the Venezuelan gang members and not bringing the plane back?
I don't know. You have to speak to the lawyers.
Are you planning to do more deportations?
I can tell you this: these were bad people. That was a bad group of, as I say, hombres. Acoustics are fantastic in the center, so that's it.
Obviously, you're
People write in and they respond to it. I know the man. Good. Yes, we don't have a country anymore, so.
Repeat after me.
Solemnly swear.
To remember that they are addressing one reason has earned that title is because it's so help me God. So help me God. Congratulations, Mr.
Nobody knew we were coming. I hope the press. Thank you again. Thank you again. Won't forget. So good. 1,700 to 525. Not too good. Joe Biden.
I would like to point out that the judges in this country are acting erroneously, who are acting as partisan activists from the bench. They are trying to dictate policy from the President of the United States, but it's incredibly apparent that there is a concerted effort by the far left to judge shop, to pick judges who are clearly acting as partisan activists from the bench. And I would just like to point out that the judge in this case is essentially trying to say that the president doesn't have the executive authority to deport foreign terrorists from our American soil. That is an egregious abuse of the bench. This judge does not have that authority. Judge Boasberg is a Democrat activist. He was appointed by Barack Obama. His wife has donated more than $10,000 to Democrats.
But Judge Boasberg was originally appointed by George W. Bush and then elevated by Barack Obama. I just feel like I should clear that up.
Well, let me just say something to that effect, Garrett. 60% of the injunctions by partisan activists in the judicial branch have come against President Donald Trump, and 92% of those have been from Democrat-appointed judges. This is a clear, concerted effort by leftists. The president has made it clear that he believes this judge in this case should be impeached.
Acoustics are fantastic in the center, so that's.
Yo le preparé una bienvenida. Todo el día estábamos esperando. Mi hijo no llegaba. No teníamos noticias. El día domingo en la mañana me llama mi yerna y me dice, ve las noticias. Cuando vemos que todos los aviones deportados fueron para El Salvador y no vinieron para Venezuela. Yo no quería creer la noticia.
Les engañaron, que lo iban a traer para acá, para Venezuela, y resulta que cuando ellos abrieron el ojo estaban en El Salvador, lo iban sacando maltratado, le pelaron el coco, le hicieron atrocidades, pues, ¿me entiendes?
Concern also that while TDA has been designated as a terrorist organization, these individuals hadn't been prosecuted for terrorism.
We absolutely disagree with the legal opinion of the individual that you mentioned. We would not have moved forward with this if we didn't believe the president. These are heinous, criminal, alien monsters who the previous administration allowed to flood into our country.
Can the administration provide any more details on how authorities determined that each of those men were in fact members of a gang? And if the White House can publish images, photos, videos of those men, why can't the administration just release basic information like their identities and names?
We are not going to reveal operational details about a counterterrorism operation, but what I can assure you, as I said on Monday, we have the highest degree of confidence in our ICE agents and our Customs and Border Patrol agents who have committed their lives to targeting illegal criminals in our country, particularly foreign terrorists. They were 100% confident in the individuals that were sent home on these flights and in the president's executive authority to do that.
Follow up, I know in the last briefing you cited privacy concerns as a reason why the administration may not be able to reveal the identities. What exactly are the privacy rights of immigrants who were deported that the administration says were dangerous enough to be sent to El Salvador and sit in a prison?
Again, as I just said, we're not going to reveal the operational details of a counterterrorism operation for quite obvious reasons. We're trying to combat terrorism here in the United States of America.
What I really mean is I'd like to get it settled.
That they are addressing the world's greatest deliberative body.
How does a president define a bad judge? Is it just someone who disagrees with him? And is that a dangerous precedent in this case?
No. It has nothing to do with disagreeing with the president on policy. It's with disagreeing with the Constitution and the law.
The president said he respects the Chief Justice here. Mm-hmm. Does he respect him specifically on this case and this opinion, or respects him overall? And has he spoken to any other Supreme Court justice?
The president respects Chief Justice Roberts overall. He just expressed that to me in the Oval Office, but it's also quite clear that the Supreme Court needs to rein in these judges who are acting as partisan activists, and they are undermining the judicial branch, and it's a dereliction of duty on their behalf.